Hello all, it's the Old Geek, and for some of you this might feel like Groundhog Day because I am re-recording a video that I did earlier. Unfortunately, that video had some sound issues, so hopefully this will go a little bit better. The point of this video is to assess how a number of official published Call of Cthulhu scenarios rate according to this somewhat notorious consent checklist that Monty Cook, I believe it was Monty Cook, put out. I've seen quite a lot of people online say that if you don't use one of these, if you don't use safety tools, blah 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 blah, you're a bad DM. You're not looking after your players. The way I tend to do it, if I'm running a game at the table with my friends, I'll pick something that I know suits their interests. If I'm running a game online with potential strangers, I'll put a little description. But the issue here is that Call of Cthulhu is an investigative horror game, and horror games rely on surprises, the unknown, tension. And if in that description I was just to mention every little thing that might set somebody off in the description, then where's the tension? Where's the surprise? I just put typically adults only, horror, 18 rating. If I'm running Call of Cthulhu, typically, because most of them they are quite adult in nature. That's how I do it, and then hopefully the person who then signs up for it knows what they're getting in for, because I'm not tricking them in any way. I'm purely trying to keep the horror element hidden until it happens, and I think that is really important when running horror, because there's one thing I'm really passionate about, and that is to go against what Wizards of the Coast said in their Ravenloft source book. For a horror game to work, it's not about making the characters scared, fear effects on the characters, dismemberment characters, whatever. You've got to get into the heads of the players as well. There has to be a sense of tension for the actual atmosphere of the game to come through. Now, I've been told I'm a half decent Cthulhu keeper. I've run a lot more D&D than I have Call of Cthulhu. I'm relatively new to running Call of Cthulhu, but the feedback I've had regarding Cthulhu games has been very, very positive. So I believe I'm getting it right. Maybe I'm just doing it for the right audience, but I've got to be doing something right somewhere. Having said that, though, I would run Call of Cthulhu for a younger group, but I would just simply pick a different adventure. I would pick something that I thought was more suitable for the younger players. You have to put a bit of gore in there, though. You have to put a few jump scares and whatever in there. But I just pull back a little on the description, and a few adult elements might be missing. But I would simply choose a different adventure. I would not change a published adventure. I much rather respect the integrity of the adventure I'm running and run it as is. I'm not experienced enough at Call of Cthulhu regarding the mythos and whatever to write my own scenario, at least not yet. So I do use published scenarios when I run Call of Cthulhu. I've run quite a lot of them. But in this video, I'm going to be focusing on the 7 scenarios that I have run more than once. So I know them pretty well. And I want to see how many of these boxes on this consent checklist that they tick. So, bit of the methodology. If the topic is in your face and firmly in the adventure, it will get a tick in the red column. If it's implied or a minor part of the adventure, it'll get a tick in the yellow column. And we're looking for the scenarios that get the most reds and yellows. 7 scenarios. I'm going to start with one that I don't believe to be particularly grotesque, and that is an Amaranthine Desire. This features in the Nameless Horrors supplement, which is a supplement which doesn't feature Cthulhu mythos creatures. Instead, it has its own horror entities in each adventure. And an Amaranthine Desire is there are going to be spoilers. I do apologise now. I should have said right at the start. There's going to be some significant spoilers in this video. An Amaranthine Desire involves the player characters being sucked back in time during a massive storm. It's got some really nice historical elements in it, in that these storms really happened on the dates that are mentioned in the adventure. And it ties in very nicely. And what they have to do is then stop a witch burning. If they prevent the witch burning, then they can get back to their own time. But it might not all go particularly well, because how long they take preventing the burning affects when they return and what's happened. It's a clever scenario. It's not particularly scary in my opinion, but it is tense and it is interesting. So, an Amaranthine Desire. Horror elements. It hasn't got these are all horror elements here, and it has no bugs. Blood. It has not really any demons, eyeballs. Gore. Yes, there is somebody whose body has been nailed to a cross. Yeah, we'll have some gore in there. Harm to animals, children, and then rats and spiders. They don't feature in this adventure at all. Relationships, no, there's no time for any of that to happen. Social and cultural issues, there's no homophobia, no racism. Real world religion and sexism, yes, because it is a witch burning, and it's done in the grounds of a church. So they do feature. Mental and physical health over here, another topic on this checklist. Cancer, claustrophobia, freezing to death. No, none of these. Physical restraint can happen, but it's going to happen to an NPC, the witch being tied to a cross. Police and police aggression. They're not so much police at this time, but they could easily fall foul of the town militia or the town guard. That's in there. Severe weather, yes, that is a big one in it. And I think that's about it. Now, when I did the first video, I had 2 ticks in the yellows and 5 in the reds. I can't see which one I've missed. It might have been, yeah, probably blood. It's blood, yeah. So 2 and 5, 2 yellows, 5 serious reds. That's the rating for an Amaranthine Desire, and that is your ballpark. Second adventure I'm going to look at. Well, first things first. If an adventure's got a wide variety of these topics in, it doesn't mean it's particularly gruesome adventure. There's one adventure on this list which I know doesn't tick too many boxes, but what it does with real gusto. So, my second one on the list, I'm going to do Plantidaya. Plantidaya. It's Welsh. This is a Victorian Gaslight era adventure set on the border of England and Wales in the countryside, and comes from the Sacraments of Evil supplement. The basic premise of this one is that somebody hires the adventurers to travel from London to the edge of the Black Mountains, I believe, of Wales, to sort out their inheritance, their estate. The guy who employs them, it's a bit weird, and that's because he is a half mythic entity, and the reason for that is some devilish Welsh fey creatures forced themselves on his mother, got her pregnant, and she killed herself. Yeah. That's the topic of this adventure. The adventure itself isn't particularly gory, though. So if you look in the horror section, I don't think it ticks any of those boxes at all. Relationships. There's a hint to explicit not really a relationship, but it's in the background material. Doesn't happen in the adventure, so it's only a yellow tick there. Social and cultural issues. There's none. There's none in it. None in it at all. Mental and physical health. Now then. Cancer, no. Claustrophobia, no. Freezing to death, no. Gaslighting, genocide, history, no. None of these. None of these. Pregnancy, miscarriage, or abortion. Yes. Self-harm. Yes. Sexual assault. Yes. Torture, I would say it has a tick for torture because of these things did to you. Again, I appear to be missing a tick. Perhaps I was just a bit harsher on them when I did my earlier video earlier today, the one that the sound didn't work on. But even though I would say this is a much more grotesque and disturbing scenario than an Amaranthine Desire, it has fewer ticks. So there are fewer factors in it that might make somebody get a bit bleh. Having said that, though, if you play Call of Cthulhu games, I'm going to say now, my issue with a lot of these tools and whatever is people imposing themselves on group. If you sign up to play a horror game, you have some responsibility towards the rest of the group, in that everybody has signed up to play the horror game, and some people might want all these in there, might want real icky horror, and if you turn up and start saying no, can't have that, no, can't have that, you're impinging yourself on the group. So it does depend on the majority in the group, though. If the majority are anything goes, then the minority probably best sit the game out. If the majority are the sort of people you've got to be a little more cautious, then it's up to the DM to pick a different adventure. That's how it needs to work. Actually, I think harm to children. I think Mothertick might have been in harm to children on this one because of that poor lad who is sort of condemned to his fate. So yeah, 2-4, 2 minor, 4 major, but the majors it hits pretty hard. That's Planted Daya. Pretty gruesome. No, sorry, not gruesome. Disturbing. Deadlight. Deadlight, originally published as a standalone scenario and recently reissued in a bigger book with another scenario. I've run it 3 times, almost always as a starter scenario for new players, new characters. It's a great one-shot as well. All you need is characters travelling on a road in the middle of a storm, and all of a sudden, bang, things happen, and they need to survive the night. They get embroiled into a pretty vile plot. Well, the best way to describe it, burglars have attacked a cottage with a view of stealing, and there's been a fight in there, and something has been released into the community fight, and that thing is something. We're on to children and babies again. That has been used to. It's an alien entity that is being used to perform illegal abortions on tainted children. Best way to describe it. So the good doctor, who is dead, has this sort of other side to him. A little bit of a reveal at the end, and obviously the whole topic can potentially disturb people. So let's see what happens in this one. Blood. Bugs, no bugs. Blood. No, not very much. Little bit. Demons, no. Eyeballs, no. Gore, potentially, yes. this could go quite big on the gore because of the way the entity kills people. Harm to animals, harm to children. It's unborn and tainted due to an unspecified issue. It doesn't go into many details there. It's up for the DM to do, but I would give it a small tick on harm to children. Relationships, no, there aren't any. Well, there's a boyfriend and girlfriend, but they don't. They die. Usually, they die in it. And yeah, there's an old couple who, yeah. Social and cultural issues. Now, this is where it does hit a little bit because there is blatant sexism in there in the form of one of the NPCs who is in a diner, and I really play him up. I try to play him up when I've run it because that makes him into a perfect red shirt, and it gives the players a bit of a quandary. What I like to do with him is he's drunk. When he gets told no, stop what you're doing because he's trying to do something he shouldn't, he storms out to his van, and thus he becomes the target for the entity. It gives the players this nice sort of quandary. He's a horrible bloke, but do they try and save him because he is innocent? He doesn't deserve to die. He doesn't deserve to be horrendously boiled from the inside or whatever's happening. But he's really not very nice. But he makes for a perfect red shirt. Absolutely perfect. Cancer, claustrophobia, freezing to death. No, you're in a storm, but there's no freezing to death. Gaslighting, genocide, heat stroke. No, none of these. Pregnancy, miscarriage, and abortion is in there. I do wonder about whether you could class it as torture. No. Severe weather. Severe weather is a definite tick there because it is in the middle of a heavy storm. Heavy storm. It's a really good starter adventure. It's not particularly disturbing, as the reveal regarding the abortion plot is done right at the end, really. It sort of leads up to it, and it's a bit of a twist. So it doesn't really harp on about it. So it's not overly disturbing. It has the potential to be very grisly, and there are a lot of NPCs that can be killed in quite horrific ways, such as on the toilet. Yeah, I've used that before. Yes. What appears to be spontaneous human combustion while having a number two. Right. That concludes Reign of Terror. So that, not Reign of Terror, sorry. Deadlight. So that was 2 minor, 4 major, which seems to be a bit of a pattern at the moment. That's about where the adventures are. So let's move on to the Blood Red Fez. Now this is the introductory Gaslight era adventure at the beginning of Horror on the Orient Express. In it, the players have to travel across Europe in a shortened version of the main campaign to Constantinople, and all along the way they're beset by Turkish people in fezzes. But there's a particular fez that causes horrible things to happen to the wearer, and you have to be of a certain disposition to be able to control it, and this guy can. It really does do horrible things to innocent or weak-minded people who wear it. It's not pretty. It can get very grisly at times, but let's see how it marks on this. Gore. Yes, it has the potential to be quite gory. But none of the other ones on there. Relationships. There's a Russian couple, and there is a hint of a relationship. Well, yeah, they're having a relationship, and it's part of the plot. So it's between two NPCs, and it's not explicit. It's sort of it's fade to black, so it's gonna get. It's not a major part of the plot either, so it's going to get a yellow for that. Amid social and cultural issues, though, I'm going to tick the racism box here, because if you run this adventure for your group of players, and by the end of the adventure they don't become suspicious of Turkish gentlemen wearing fezzes, then you're doing something wrong. Because yeah, that Turkish gentleman is not very nice, and the fez is even worse. But in terms of other things that are going on, I think there's only one or two of the mental and physical list that deserve a tick here. I would say, when I looked at this the first time, it only got 2 ticks, but I think I underplayed it a little. It's not intentional torture, and it's not intentional self-harm, but it can easily happen because of what a fez does when someone is wearing it. So I'm gonna put a tick in both of those. Aside from that, I don't think there's anything else. So that's 3 and 2. It's not much. It doesn't really get you psychologically like some of the other adventures. And horror pretty much comes from one source. No, I'm gonna put a tick here on claustrophobia, because you are stuck on a train. You can't. This is where the horror comes from in this one. You're stuck on a train. You can't get off, and there is a mythos entity of some unknown source on the train with you, and you've got to find out what's going on. So there we go. 4 and 2. I'm gonna go 4 and 2 on this one. Okay. Next up, another one from the Horror on the Orient Express series, and this is from the prequel hardback Reign of Terror, set during the French Revolution. This introduces one of the villains who becomes an ongoing villain in the main Horror on the Orient Express campaign. And I know from doing this video already that this one gets quite a few ticks, though it is nowhere near as disturbing as Plant Daya, one of the ones I've already done. It just has a variety of things in it that can feature on this list. So let's have a look down. Blood, yes, quite a lot. He's not a demon, right? Gore, yes. There are scenes in it that are quite slasher horror-ish. Harm to animals, yes, there is a freshly beheaded dog. Yeah. Harm to children, rats, and spiders, no. There's none of that. Relationships. Okay. The main villain is ingratiated himself in the French aristocracy. He's said to be a German or Austrian aristocrat. And the idea is that at the end of it, he gets arrested and put in an asylum because he is so debauched. He has no care for life, no care for customs, anything like that. He is just an utter hedonist. He is sadistic, he is vile, and he has these parties where all sorts of things go on. So this is one where there is explicit sex. Not between the PCs or anything, it's between NPCs. pretty disgusting scene. Social and cultural issues, homophobia, racism, real world religion. No, none of those are in it. None of those are in it. There's no sexism or anything like that. In fact, during one particular scene, it's a bit of role reversal. Mental and physical health. Okay. I can put a little tick on the claustrophobia because they go into the Paris catacombs. Little introduction to the adventure, which can be quite claustrophobic. There's torture. Yeah, there's torture. There's sexual assault. Yes, there's sexual assault. Now, I'm sure this had more ticks. Sure, this had some more ticks last time, and I can't see. Oh, yes, I know where. This bit on police and police aggression. The party consists of a group of soldiers doing their duty. So this isn't aggression committed by NPC policemen on player characters. This is vice versa, and they're not really police. They are soldiers, and so that gets a minor tick. It's lost a tick from somewhere because it had 3 and 6 when I did this morning, and I can't remember where its other tick came in. So we're going to go with the 2 and 6. 2 and 6 is absolutely fine for this one because there is a wide variety of things going on in it, a wide variety of instances. It's a very linear adventure though, and I don't think it's particularly scary. It's just a bit gruesome, and it's a bit gratuitous at times, a bit too much in your face. Not a lot is left to the imagination. Yes, that is a bit of a criticism, but it's still fun. It's still fun. You've got to have a group of adults, open-minded adults, to play that one. So that was Reign of Terror. Okay, just 2 more to go. I've left these 2 to the end for a reason. First up, I'm going to look at Mr. Corbett, a slightly notorious scenario from the Mansions of Madness collection. This has been published twice and often features in best of lists in terms of gruesome adventures. I don't think it's a particularly great adventure because you have to really get it set up over a long period of time. It doesn't run well as a one-shot, which is a shame. But as part of a campaign, if you've got your players in with their roots set down in a location, and that location means something to them, then Mr. Corbett is a sort of adventure you can drop in. Drip, 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 drip. But what's it all about? Right. The mild, unassuming Mr. Corbett, a neighbour of either family, friends, or one of the player characters, goes about his daily, weekly routine like clockwork. There's nothing seemingly wrong with him. Wife died about 10 years ago, and outwardly he seems to have coped okay. Inwardly, the reason for his wife's death, what he's doing in his basement, how the thing in his basement came about, how he's building the thing in his basement, what he's using, it's vile. Absolutely vile. Blood, minor. Demons. I was humming and hurring about whether, but I think it's going to get a yellow tick here for demons because that thing is unpleasant, but it's not really a demon. Gore. Yes. Yes. Harm to children. If that gives you a clue, yes. No direct harm is being caused in the adventure. It's what is being done to the poor kids' bodies now. No rats, no spiders. Relationships, no. None built into the adventure itself. Though you might want to use a relationship to tie your characters into it. Social and cultural issues. There's none of this. No, there's no homophobia, no racism, no real world religion or sexism. So that's not in there. Mental and physical health. No cancer, no claustrophobia. No, no. Pregnancy, miscarriage, and abortion. That's in there again. Again. Because his dead ex-wife has given birth to this entity thing. Yeah, right. And I would say it would class as sexual assault because the idea is that it wasn't him who impregnated his wife. It was the entity that he now worships, using him as a vessel. So this is one of those adventures where there's not a lot of things it does horrifically. Not a lot of horrific topics. But what it does do, it hits you like a jackhammer. It's vile. It's low on psychological horror, low on real physical threat. It's just sick is the best way to describe it. Okay, so the one I've left till last. I left it to last when I did the initial video, and I've left it to last again. And that's for a reason. And this is an adventure I bang on about a lot. I've run it 3 times. Every single time it's turned out differently. It is so flexible. It's like a Cthulhu sandbox almost. There are so many little twists and turns and side plots. And it's my favourite Call of Cthulhu adventure. And that is the utterly brilliant Forget-Me-Not. From the things we leave behind, a supplement, I think it was a Kickstarter done a little while ago by Stygian Fox. I've reviewed it. I've done some playthroughs, recaps of it on the channel. Let's see how many boxes this one ticks. Horror. Bugs. Yes. Blood. Yes. Demons. One of my groups did manage to see the Cthulhu entity. Yeah, that gets there. Eyeballs. Now, yeah, one of the effects involves bleeding from the eyes. It's not directly eyeballs, but yeah, there can be bleeding. Gore. Probably more than all the other adventures in this list put together. Harm to animals. It's happened off screen before the adventure happens. Harm to children. Same. Rats, no. It hasn't got any rats. Spiders. Yes. Yes. Spider broodlings growing inside the bodies of the adventurers. Right, relationships. The idea, there is an optional side plot which you can use to torment your players with. I've used it every time, where one of the characters was having an illicit affair with one of the work team, and that member of the work team is dead already, and you can use that to torment the character because they get memories and flashbacks and what have you. And so this is between PCs and NPCs. Yes, it has happened before the adventure, but you can abuse it as you're running it. So it's not explicit. It's just something you can, something you can use as a keeper to really twist the knife in. Homophobia, racism, real world, religion, and sexism. None of that. It's clean as far as that's concerned. Okay, mental and physical health, though. Cancer. That's in there. Claustrophobia, given that the claustrophobia effect is highly recommended as a sanity, bout of sanity, you could have that in there as well. There's no freezing to death, gaslighting, genocide, heat stroke, or anything like that. I didn't need it. Paralysis and physical restraint, yes, it's got that. Police aggression, yes, it's likely to have some of that as well. Pregnancy, miscarriage, or abortion. Dubious whether this can be called pregnancy. But the idea is that all of the player characters are vessels for carrying these broodlings, and they've been forcibly impregnated with them by these tentacles that have been shoved down their throats. Great. And self-harm. When I've played it before, I've on multiple occasions had characters try to cut the broodlings out from their own bodies. Gets a tick. Sexual assault. No, I'm not going to class it as sexual assault. No, because it's tentacle down the throat. Starvation. Yes, that can happen because your throat's hurt. And the same goes for thirst, and the same goes for torture. I think it's actually got more ticks this time round than the first time. Oh well. Thoroughly. Actually, no, that's because starvation and thirst are right up front. They should be right up front. So let's count these up. 5 minors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 majors. That is more than double any of the other adventures I've listed. And there's some nasty ones I've already listed. This is why I consider, and a number of people consider, Forget Me Not to probably be the pinnacle of Call of Cthulhu, taking it to the extreme. It's a very flexible adventure. I love running it. What does that say about me? My groups have enjoyed playing it. What does it say about them? We're gamers. And that's been me, the old geek. I think the result at the end was unsurprising. But I hope you've seen now why I don't use one of these consent checklists. I just warn players in advance if the game is going to be horror 18 plus. Then it's up to them. They can choose. If I've got an all females in the group, I'm not going to use a scenario like Planted Daya. That's pure common sense. And if I had a young group, I might still run Forget Me Not, but I would take the lurid affair out of it. So there'll be no sexual elements. So that's the common sense that you need to have in running adventures. You need to know your group, or just at least have an idea of what they're going to be like. And don't try to push too much. Because I'm going to say now, I don't think I admitted it at the start, I'm very squeamish. I cannot watch a horror film. I cannot watch a hospital program on telly without going... I don't like visual displays of gore at all. But I can read them. And I can play games with them in. No problem with that. So we can get over these fears. Anyway, that's been me, the old geek. See ya.